It's almost a Super Bowl weekend, and joining us right now to talk about the business both on and off the field in the world of sports is Rich Kleiman, who's the Boardroom co-founder and CEO. Might have been up late watching the Knicks. I don't know. I
was up late. Yes.
Are you East Coast or West Coast, Mr. Kleiman?
I'm West Coast. I'm in San Francisco already, bright and early.
So it wasn't that late for you? Or actually, yes.
That late.
Yeah, you didn't have to stay up that late. Exactly. It's early for you now, is what's going on. So you're out. Yeah. You're out on the big Super Bowl weekend. People think of it as a sporting event, but it's become almost something else. It's like the Olympics or something. It's like it's become a corporate event to some degree. Tell me everything you're doing this weekend.
Oh my God. It definitely has become a bit of a convergence of what like All-Star weekend for the NBA, the Oscars, the Grammys. My schedule is packed. I think it's amazing the amount of different companies and brands activating. I think experiential for all companies has become so important that you see it really manifest over a Super Bowl weekend. So whether you're an AI company, a prediction market, whether you're a tech company, whether you're in media, some form of media activation or event activation you are doing this weekend.
As a result, do you think, how much do you think it becomes about the game versus everything else?
The game has its moment. There's no question. It's the Super Bowl. And I think the entire spectacle of the Super Bowl, the halftime show, it's still while we're all here. But I think when you get this amount of people in one market and the amount of business that takes place this weekend, it's also more than that. And I think you see a lot of deal making. I think for a lot of athletes that aren't participating, it's an opportunity to make money, to activate for the brands that they have deals with, and to find new business for yourself. And it's also, as a fan, just an incredible environment to see football take over an entire city and know how big it is and how global it is.
You know, we always say that sports tries to bring people together and isn't political. There's some debate about Bad Bunny, who's going to be performing at the halftime show, who's made some political comments here and there. What do you think?
I think it's sad that it's a reflection of where we're at as a country. Bad Bunny is arguably the biggest star in the world. And as he said at the Grammys the other day, Puerto Rico is part of America. And the game has gone global. And I think this is an incredible opportunity for people to see what a star he is that maybe have just turned their back on it or have assumed that it wasn't for them. Bad Bunny is for everybody. And I think the NFL has done an amazing thing trying to go a bit beyond what they've done in the past. And, I just think it's a sad reflection of our country, but I'm excited for Bad Bunny.
Have you talked to KD about this, by the way? I don't know if you saw this podcast. He says he's never listened to Bad Bunny before.
No, I haven't talked to him about it. Well, he will Sunday.
I have listened to Bad Bunny.
I don't know anything.
You don't know anything, Joe?
I wasn't surprised to hear that.
I don't know any song. No, I couldn't. I don't know any of his songs or anything. I like his name.
Andrew, I think it's surprising that you're shocked that Joe hasn't listened to Bad Bunny.
I'm not that shocked. I'm not that shocked. One of the other things
I'm a big Nicki Minaj fan now.
Joe, don't say that.
One of the things that's going to be uniquely interesting this year is the fact that there's the Olympic overlay during this whole period, and then you have the NBA. And by the way, it's all happening on NBC. So you have, obviously, the Super Bowl this weekend. That's starting basically in concert with the beginning of the Olympics. Then the Olympics, in some ways, are almost going to be interrupted by the NBA All-Star weekend. And then you go back to the Olympics. How do you think that's going to, does that put more attention on all of it? What do you think happens?
Yeah, I think it's rising tides. I think it brings more attention to all of it. And I think, the Olympics have their core fans. And I think this time of year, you choose what Olympic sport you want to watch. It's not one of those things you have to stay glued into for 2 weeks. So I think just the attention of sports as a whole will give the Olympics a nice push. And the story with Lindsey Vonn now competing with a torn ACL, I think is just one of those things and one of those moments in time where people will be glued in no matter what's happening.
And the other piece of this is, this is still the most watched thing on television, the Super Bowl, that is. Do you ever see a moment where it becomes fragmented, meaning like the rest of media?
Well, I think yes and no. I mean, I think the way people consume it is a bit fragmented. But I think that this like event that is the Super Bowl is something that we actually all crave. I think with this fragmented media landscape, and how bad people's attention spans are, the idea that there is something that's bringing the entire country and parts of the entire world together, I think becomes things that people find refreshing to some degree. So I don't see a world in which, the ever changing of technology and media will take people's eyeballs away from the Super Bowl. I mean, if you think about this year, you have two teams in Seattle and in New England that don't have one of those like premier quarterbacks, those Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady or Peyton Manning. But it doesn't really matter. It's about the storylines that are created the 2 weeks leading up to it. It's about the tradition of the Super Bowl and people coming together to watch it. And we find the stories in both of these teams leading into the game. And no, I don't see a world in which the Super Bowl loses attention or focus.
One of the things we were talking about just yesterday with the guys from the Acquired podcast is the idea of these leagues trying to be international. Football, interestingly, is still such a domestic game, and whether you think there's a real opportunity internationally, I know the NBA has been trying as well for quite some time, probably with more success.
Yeah, it's interesting. I actually think the way the NFL has done it, and I would imagine it was intentional, but regardless, I think it's been impactful and successful, which is that they have been doing games globally for decades now. And they've taken their time with this. And this is a sport, obviously, unlike basketball or soccer, that kids are playing as much at a young age. And the star power in the NFL has not really ever been what drives that league. It's about the teams, it's about the shield, it's about the history. But as these games continue year after year to enter into new markets and fans get built up, you start to really feel, and I feel it when I've traveled outside of the country, that people really do follow the NFL now. And I think that it's a different strategy. The NBA has the benefit of these global stars that have competed in their countries and come over to the NBA and dominated as well. And obviously the Olympics. So it's been a different kind of approach that the NBA's had to take, and a benefit they've had in terms of the star power. But the NFL's done a really good job, and you see every year adding new cities, adding more games. I think it only helps in their future media deal, but it's definitely expanded the reach of the league.
And then finally, we continue to have lots of conversations about gambling and prediction markets and the merging of the two or the competition between them. Do you have a take on who's going to win this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not quite sure that it's one or the other. I'm pretty bullish on the prediction markets. I've spent a lot of time with Tarek, the founder of Kalshi. He's incredibly impressive. And I'm not even quite sure if the profile of the type of consumer is exactly the same, where you're taking somebody from a gambling platform to a prediction market. I think there's obviously a ton of optionality. There's a ton that you can wager on markets on the prediction market that have nothing to do with sports. But I do think that there's a world for both. And I think, like I said, that the profile of that consumer is a bit different. But as the sports companies are going into their own prediction markets, a lot will unfold. But I think it was imperative that they did. And I think it's a pretty interesting and exciting time. Obviously, both the prediction markets that are really in the zeitgeist have different stories themselves. Kalshi regulated one and has done an incredible job marketing the brand. I think it's interesting. You won't see prediction market ads during the Super Bowl. I'm sure you will in the future, but I read that they will not be during this year's Super Bowl. But yeah, I don't think there's like a bottom to drop at all with the prediction markets. I think it's an incredible way. I think institutions are starting to use it for their own intel. And I think it's an incredible way to kind of understand human sentiment a bit, which is different than sports gambling.